travel warriors. I'm Steve.
And I'm George.
Join us as we unpack the challenges, excitement, preparation,
and passion for travel.
Hey, George.
How are you doing today, Stevie?
Good. It's great to be back. Always good to, go on a trip and come back. Though, you used to tease me that I used to get jet lag flying from Phoenix to Orange County, so coming back from San Salvador, connecting in Houston, felt good. When you get on the plane, everything's perfect. You're like, you made the connection, you're going to be home. And all of a sudden there's a long queue, 11 deep, planes ahead of yours, going out to the takeoff point. And, that just added about 45 minutes, to the flight. And I think that's what basically got me really tired. By the time I landed and I got home, it was almost, it was like midnight. I noticed on the last couple of trips, I don't know how you feel about this, but I seem to be in a fog the next day where I'm just basically a zombie and just want to drink coffee and lounge around and not do anything. So that's basically what I went through. Luckily, I didn't really do much the following day, just try to recover and hydrate. But it's so great to be back in our ad hoc studios, if you will.
Mm-hmm. We started our countdown of top 5 hotels, right? We started that last month. And this is number 4. Is that right?
Number 4, yes. So this is what I just thought about, call it the Conrad and Cunard trip. July, probably the third week in July. And what gave me clues? Well, everyone gets a magnet when they go somewhere, right? I have in front of me my little refrigerator magnet of the Cunard transatlantic crossing of 2019. And that took off from the Brooklyn cruise terminal in New York in late July of 2019 for that particular crossing. And this is why, and I got to give myself credit. I found the hotel. Shark takes credit for the Cunard trip and everything else, but I'm taking credit for the Conrad Hilton downtown that I told her, hey, I found the hotel. We want to book it. Just to give a little bit of a backstory to that hotel. That hotel was built in 2000, and it is located in the southern part of Manhattan, lower Manhattan rather, near the Tribeca, near the Battery Park, and it's literally 450 feet from a place called Brookfield Place. Brookfield Place has boutique shops. It has casual dining, fine dining. There's a little thing called a little cove called the North Marina Cove, where you have boats that are anchored right there. I mean, of course, it sits. Brookfield Place sits on the banks of the Hudson River. So let me set the stage. We fly in, we leave probably midday Phoenix. You're getting into New York late in the afternoon. We get dropped off at the Conrad downtown. Beautiful hotel as you walk in. It gave me it reminded me of walking into one of those old European or Spanish or Mexico cathedrals, right? Where it's so airy and it's like, wow, you could hear the sound, the acoustics. And I think you could take an elevator, or there was an escalator up to the second floor where you have a Mediterranean restaurant. That's where you're going to have your breakfast. It's just a massive hotel, which was built in 2000, which later in 2011, I just read, was purchased by Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs actually is across the street. Originally, it was built as an Embassy Suites. I didn't know this. I was kind of like intrigued in that all the rooms are suites, right? 1 or 2 bedroom suites. It's modern. It is a 5-star, great food. The location, you could not beat it. Service was excellent. And in 2019, this was our second year, consecutive year that we had stayed there, because in 2018, we stayed there because we had gone to have you ever been to an Indian wedding, George?
I have not.
Okay, we had the honor, my wife did, one of her managers invited us to her daughter's wedding. It was an Indian wedding. It was the most lavish, most intricate, just mind blowing. I mean, this is a 2-day event, and we felt honored for the invitation. And of course, Shar had two sari dresses, and it was just amazing. The wedding itself took place in nearby New Jersey. We stayed in, I think, the Westin in Morristown, New Jersey, and shuttle service to the venue, the wedding, and all that. But again, I'm sorry, I'm digressing. There was a lot of moving parts to this trip. But getting back to the Conrad, it was the very first time I had stayed in a Conrad. And they did a beautiful job. From what I understand, from what I've read, they really, really did a great job elevating. Can you imagine elevating from an Embassy Suites to a Conrad? Apparently, Goldman Sachs didn't feel that that was going to be a good enough place for its clients. So they bought it and they got it rebranded as a Conrad. There
Wow.
are two Conrad hotels in New York. There is another one called Conrad Midtown. I haven't stayed there, but as of in TPG, the points guy, he talks about on June 4th that it is leaving the Hilton Honor Program. It will now be become a Marriott. So you will have a standalone Conrad Hilton there in New York. And I got to tell you, it was, I love to stay in, and I've only stayed in a handful, maybe 5 luxury hotels where the room and or suite feels like you are in part of an estate, not in a hotel.
Wow.
It might have those little nuanced things that you find would be in a luxury estate. You know, the shutters or how the TV is set up. You know, you have the Nespresso machine, you know, the configuration, how quiet it is in the room, the materials, just fantastic. Anyone going to New York, any of our audience members, I highly recommend the Conrad Hilton Downtown. You have walking distance Brookfield Place, which I have sent you the link so they can see. We actually ate at a restaurant there at Brookfield Place called Le District. And Le District is a French marketplace offering some very unique culinary experiences. Of course, you can get the artisanal cheeses, pastries, meat, seafood, European specialty imports. And the Le District, it's just a really nice spot to get a meal. So that's where we ate. We went back in the evening. We saw the sun come down as we were sitting on the banks of the Hudson River with the boats in the backdrop. Beautiful to see the sunset. Wonderful romantic evening, dinner, wine. Get back to the Conrad. You're in a beautiful, spacious suite, at least 500 square feet, and great gym, great bar. And, we spent another full day in New York, of course. And then on the third day, that's when we took an Uber over to the Brooklyn Cruise Terminal and got on the iconic Queen Mary 2, which we could do a whole other episode on. I have video, I have pictures, etc., etc. So that is my number 4 favorite luxury hotel stay. Now it's
So remember, how did you book it? Did you book it online or did you call the hotel?
I booked it through the Hilton site. Luckily for us, George, in 2018, of course, I was Diamond or Lifetime Diamond at that point. There was no upgrade available, but in 2019, they did upgrade me from one of the best suites they had, which was fantastic. I mean, it was much bigger. The living room was, ridiculous how big it was. And so it just enhanced that trip. Of course, we were excited already from being in New York. And then on top of that, the anticipation of getting on the Queen Mary 2 for a 7-day Atlantic crossing in the North Atlantic. I was a little bit nervous because that's hurricane season. And we could have easily hit some rough weather as we're crossing. But, the ship is just built. It's an ocean liner. It's built to cross the Atlantic. So number 4, Conrad Hilton Downtown, just a great, great hotel.
Do you remember, did you, so you booked it with points or did you just pay?
I don't know if I can't remember. I don't remember it being exorbitant.
Okay.
I don't remember it being, oh man, not like now. You want to book a 5-star anywhere in the continental U.S., it's $1,000 a night. okay, on a weekend. So it wasn't, it could have been, and I've done this at times where you don't want to give away the farm to spend one night at
Mm-hmm.
a place. So what you do is maybe you book the first night on points and then you pay the second night, etc. So it could have well been, I could have paid the first night on hotel points and the next two nights pay room and tax. I mean, because we want to be able to salvage some of our points for the next trip, right?
That's right.
So, so I think that's what we most likely did on that trip.
Well, that sounds exciting. I was in New York, January of 2023, and I wish we would have had that discussion because I wasn't too far away from there. I would have loved to gone by and seen that hotel. Remind me next time I go to New York, Stevie, that I'll go by and
Yes.
check it out.
I've never had a bad trip to New York. Have you? Every trip to New York, either
Mm-mm.
you go to the Cat's Deli, you go to the Oculus, you go to Rockefeller Plaza. It's always a great experience. Always great to be in New York. One of my favorite cities.
Very true. Very true. Well, thank you for sharing your number four. My number four, Steve, is a hotel that actually you and I have stayed at.
Really?
Yep. So I get a call from a Steve Sunson approximately around February of 2015, if I remember right. Monumental moment. You called me on the phone and said,
Okay.
Shar and I are getting married. We are doing a Mediterranean cruise out of Venice, ending in Barcelona, and we want you to be a part of the wedding and be a part of the cruise. Do you remember that?
Yes. How can I forget? What a blessing to have our family. Not everyone could make it, of course, but family and close friends like you and Zoraida to join us on such a milestone for us.
So how your number four was tied to the Canard, my number
Right.
four was tied to your wedding and the Mediterranean cruise.
Right.
And so my number four hotel was the Hilton Molino, excuse me, Stucky in
Right.
Venice, right?
Right. Know it.
And
I know it.
so we both stayed there. And so what made it my number four was probably the overall experience. That was a unique hotel, being in Venice, being there for your wedding, being there for the cruise. To me, that was an unbelievable experience. We stayed 2 nights. So kind of just to back up, Zoraida and I actually flew into Rome four nights prior and stayed at an Intercontinental in Rome, right by the Spanish Steps.
Nice.
That is not an Intercontinental anymore. I don't know exactly what year, but I did a little research a couple of years ago, and that's not there anymore. But that was the first part of our trip. And from there, from Rome to Venice, we took a train and we got there the same day. We timed it when you guys got to Venice. A couple of things about that hotel. It's on Giudecca Island. Okay. So it's kind of in the
Mhm.
outskirts of all the canals and the central part of Venice there in the islands and the S Canal. So you can take a transportation from either the airport or from the train station. We took it from the train station. They have a private speedboat or a shuttle boat, as they call it, that takes you to the Hilton, which was pretty cool. I mean, I was just like pinching myself. You get out of the train station, you're right there, right? Stuff that you've, at least for me, have seen in pictures or movies over the
Yes.
years, and to
Amazing.
finally be there, right? You're there in Venice, and you're just like, my gosh, I'm right here. Can't
Yeah.
believe it. So almost everything's a blur, right? You get on the boat, you get to find out which Hilton boat it is that takes you, and you almost don't even remember
Yeah.
you getting there. And next thing you know, you're kind of dropped off, and you're just kind of in awe. You see this hotel, and it's like, wow, what kind of building is this? And so a little bit of a story on the building. So the person that the building is named after is a guy named Giovanni Stucky. Okay, he was a Swiss Venetian businessman back in the late 1800s. Okay.
Right.
And he had sort of warehouse built that they can produce flour. By the late 1800s, so this building opened up in like 1895, and by 1900, it is at the height of its this flour mill is going. It employs about 1,500 people, and it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they produced about 50 tons of flour. So Giovanni Stucky was probably one of the richest men in Venice at the time, making pasta, right? And so, unfortunately, his fortunes kind of turned quickly. By the early 1900s, there was labor strife. And by 1910, you wouldn't believe it, he gets murdered by one of his own disgruntled workers. Isn't
Wow.
that crazy? Yeah.
That's,
So the mill kind of went downhill for a long time until it closed its doors in 1955. By 1994, 40, 50 years later, it gets purchased, or the building gets acquired, and I'm going to butcher it. It's called Società del Acqua Pia Intesa Marcia Spa, and I know I'm butchering it. So they purchased the building in 1994, and by mid 2000s, they partner with Hilton, and in June 1st of 2000, they open up what is now the Hilton Molino Stucky Hotel. And you and I were there 8 years later in July of 2015. So a couple other things. Again, it's in Guadeca Island. It does have the highest rooftop bar in the city. Also has a pool on the rooftop. I didn't remember that. I don't know if we
I
went
didn't
up to the
either.
top.
I don't think, I think we may have taken a quick look at it. That's it.
Right. Because, we're only there 2 days, and the excitement of checking out Mark Square and
Of
going through the
course.
canals and going over
Yes.
some of the little walking bridges, eating. Of course, there was a high priority. One of the things I do remember, the first night we got there, Steve, and I think about this occasionally. I don't know if you remember this. And Charlene and Zoraida and I, we all ate dinner. I don't think it was there at the hotel, but it was a little bit further down. We found a restaurant, and I can't remember if we all ordered fish or you and I just ordered fish. But the fish, in Europe and other parts of the world outside the U.S., they leave the head on.
Oh,
You were like,
God.
the
I don't like that.
eyeballs
Yeah.
staring at you.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I hate that. Yeah. Like the evil eye now. Everyone wears those evil eye bracelets. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah. So I remember that. It was just, and then the day the cruise left, going down the main canal there where the cruise leaves, and then on the backside, right, we're facing like Mark Square, and we're doing all the waving. The Hilton is behind you, right? So I think we ran over and took pictures of of the hotel,
Yeah.
and it was just a great experience. To me, that's my number four. You know, going back, like thinking about the room. I think we stayed in the King's, a regular King guest room. Um, it's about, I think it was back in 2015. It had to have been like 50 or 60,000 points, kind of what I remember. I checked in mid-July, and it was 70,000 points. So,
That's a lot.
yeah, it's a lot, but not a huge difference from 10 years ago. Matter of fact, I was thinking that just the regular room would be over 100,000, but it was only, I say only, 70,000. But to be there in Venice and at that location, I think it's a pretty reasonable price to stay there at that hotel. And also in 2018, Stevie, that hotel got on the list of the worldwide historical hotels. We stayed in a pretty good one.
Next year will be our tenth wedding anniversary.
Yep.
We'll be going back to somewhere in Europe. So yeah, wow, almost 10 years, George. 9 years it's been already.
Yep.
It would have been in a couple of months because we got married on July 11th on the ship. So wow, 10 years can go by quick.
It can. It
Yeah.
can.
George, do you recall in the hotel? I love to take my time, especially if I'm in a historic hotel, to kind of soak in some of its history. Most of the time, that's done in either a statue or there's picture frames. Do you recall? I recall distinctly seeing some photographs that were in black and white that you can obviously see they were enlarged, but they show the picture of the inside of the hotel when it was working as a flour mill,
Mm-hmm.
and you see the workers with their overalls and this kind of thing. Really like that. Our room, George, I think was in an upper floor, and for whatever reason, you know how it has a roof like this, and I think our room was kind of like it had a weird angle to it. It wasn't like a
Yes.
flat roof; it had like an angle to it. It's kind of weird. I felt a little bit like it was kind of very enclosed. But I'll tell you something funny real quick about that hotel. When we got on the ship on embarkation day, maybe it was the second day, we were already at sea. And Shar starts going through, when you get in the cabin, and it takes you a day or two to go filter through all your things, right? And then she's looking frantically for a pair of Tory Burch sandals that she had purchased new and was excited to wear them on the cruise ship. And she couldn't find them. And she ended up calling the hotel. No one had turned them in. She was just like really frustrated because so I'll never forget the brand Tory Burch, because it was the Tory Burch sandals that we left at that hotel in Venice that she made a big fuss about. And I know that frustration when you buy something new and you can't find it. One other thing, George, that I remember taking away, I think the hotel, correct me if I'm wrong, had like shuttles that would take you to St. Mark's Square or to 2 or 3 points. And then it
Yes.
would bring you back. I think it was every half an hour from the major points in Venice. And I just remember uh, we had some drinks or coffee or something at St. Mark's Square. Number one, it was unbelievably expensive. I think everybody knows that. And wow. And then number two, on the way back from St. Mark's Square and that whole area, little shops and stuff like that, I remember it was dusk and the sun was coming down. George, I still have a video of being in the back of that boat and seeing the sun is coming down, and you see the water and the outline of the buildings in Venice. And I got to tell you, it's wow. It's one of the things that you'll never forget, those images, the feeling
Mm-hmm.
that you had when you were doing it. What about you? What other, from the hotel, did you go to any of the museums? Obviously you went to St. Mark's Square. We were all going in different directions, but what do you recall? That was kind of fun.
Just going through the little small streets and
Yeah.
crossing as many bridges as possible
Yes.
is one of the things I really, really remember. And again, just being, man, I'm here in Venice. Never thought I would be here ever. And, going back to how expensive it was, someone had told Zoraida to get a limoncello drink there.
Right.
And it was like, I don't know, $25. I was like, how frugal I am. We got in a huge fight because I'm like, why are we spending $25 on this ridiculous drink? Um, but yeah, Zoraida won out on that one. But just the whole experience
Yeah.
there, from the train ride from Rome, taking the boat to the hotel, like you said, taking the hotel boat to St. Mark's Square, or the places that can drop you off, the anticipation and getting on the boat for the cruise, never being on a Mediterranean cruise like that before, and then of course you and Shar getting married.
Beautiful day.
That whole thing kind of encapsulates why that hotel was my number four.
And George, before I forget, I remember, okay, that was in July of 2015, but several years later, maybe 2018 or 19, I remember reading that where we were anchored, where we actually where the ship was anchored and the sail away, they no longer, from what I understand, are allowed to anchor their ships there anymore. They have more of a kind of like in Phoenix and some other cities where now the car rental is a consolidated rental car facility where you either take a shuttle bus or a sky train, like in SFO, same kind of thing. I think that they now all the ships, because the residents complain of these mobs of people and the ships right there, and they just come in, so many at the time, and I guess they were having meetings, and they, a lot of disgruntled people. Of course, we don't know what that's like because we don't actually live in Venice, but I'm sure these are valid points. But I don't think we could have experienced. I don't think that we could experience the sail away that we had in 2015 to what you can do now on a cruise ship in Venice. And then, George, on a side note, we had hired a professional photographer from Venice, the sweetest guy. He's probably in his mid-20s and had all these huge cameras with the zoom lenses and all that. And he took us around to there's that big cathedral, St. Maria something, very famous. We have a picture there. We look tiny compared to this massive basilica. So he took us around Venice and took some, not just of us, also, with the whole family included. But what a trip. 2 great hotels. Now, we flew from San Francisco to Paris on Air France, and then we connected in Paris, and then we went from Paris to Venice on a small plane, maybe a 737. I remember getting in one of these little rinky-dink shuttle microbuses, and I was like in a daze. Once I got to Venice and saw everything, the buildings, the water, George, I was just like, I was in a daze. Overload sensory experience, but how fortunate we were that we can look back. Again, getting back to what I told you about being in that room, sealed off, and looking at someone's life in their experiences. So really, it comes down to, in the end, it's about the people that we love and the places that we got to go to and experience, either as individuals or with family or with friends. Anything else you wanna talk about as far as the hotel or trip before we wrap up?
Well, we'd love to hear either one of those 2 hotels or their experience in New York or their experience in Venice. As you talked about that same sail away, I think they there's a tax now in Venice too. I think a tourist tax,
Really?
if I remember right.
Wow.
So because there were so many mods of people, but as you know, Steve, there's not a lot of places I'd like to go back, just because there's so many places to see around the world, and you can
Yes.
never kind of recapture that same moment that you experienced the first time. And the 2 places, number 1 would be Dubai. I would go back, and probably number 2 would be Venice. I would love to go back there again one day, but there's other places in the world I haven't seen and can't wait to get to. But, that's it. I think that's our number 4. Again, love to hear from our audience and their experiences.
Well, thank you for joining us, and join our ever-growing community of travel warriors, and let's keep this journey going.
And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep updated on our latest episodes. Until next time, safe travel.